Close closing statements from the Indiana Republican Senate primary debate between candidates Luke Messer, Todd, Rokita and Mike Braun at Emmis Communications in Indianapolis on Tuesday, February 20, 2018. Michelle Pemberton, IndyStarWASHINGTON, former state rep. Mike Braun is far outspending his two rivals for the GOP Senate nomination. The largely self-funding candidate has dropped about $4.5 million with about 2 weeks to go before the May 8 primary. Representative Luke Messer had spent about $2.9 million through April 18, according to his recently filed disclosure report. Rep. Todd Rokita was close behind Messer, with about $2.8 million going out the door by mid-month. Messer reported having $1.07 million left in the bank, while Rokita had nearly $1.3 million. But it's unclear how much of their remaining funds can be spent on the primary because some of those contributions are dedicated to the general election. Braun still had nearly $1.4 million in reserve. There are no limits on how much of his own funds he can spend. The reports are the final full disclosures before the primary. The three Republicans are locked in a heated battle for the chance to take on Democratic Senator Joe Donnelly. As Indiana's only statewide elected Democrat in a state that Donald Trump won by 19 percentage points, Donnelly is viewed as one of Republicans' best chances of expanding its majority in the narrowly divided Senate. But some Republicans fear the divisiveness of the primary campaign could hurt that effort. Donnelly, who is not being challenged for the Democratic nomination, was sitting on about $6 million in reserves mid-month after raising about $10 million. The final GOP primary debate, sponsored by the Indiana Debate Commission, is Monday. Get more politics news? Sign up for IndyStar's Who's Your Politics newsletter. More. Todd Rokita is battling the elites, including fellow Republicans who used to support him. Braun, the least known of the candidates at the start of the race, has loaned his campaign most of the $5.9 million he raised through mid-April. He's spent more than $4.3 million on advertising, usually touting his real-world experience as a businessman. In his most talked-about ad, Braun carries around cardboard cutouts of his opponents and asks people if they can tell the difference between Messer and Rokita, who have been in the game of politics all their lives. Rokita, who wears boxing gloves in one ad and a red Make America Great Again hat in most, is selling himself as the Trumpian fighter who will proudly stand with our president and Mike Pence to drain the swamp. His most recent disclosure report shows $530 in items purchased from the Trump Make America Great Again committee. Most of Messer's ads feature his family, first his daughters, then his son's fifth-grade basketball team, and then his mom, as he pitches himself as a big advocate for Trump's agenda. It's pro-family, pro-life and pro-America, with no apologies, he says in one. A super PAC with ties to Messer has spent more than $300,000 in ads attacking Braun for having voted in Democratic primaries for years, and for voting for an increase in the state's gas tax. The PAC has not disclosed who supplied most of the money for the ad purchase. At least some of the funds came from Doug Rose, president of an Indianapolis real estate development company who is Messer's finance director. Another outside group whose donors are anonymous has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in ads praising Messer. But the outside spending in the primary has been far less than in the 2016 battle between Tea Party favorite Marlin Stutzman and Todd Young, who was backed by the GOP establishment. Or, Mike Braun, a Republican Senate candidate, brings casual attire but serious business credentials. More. Luke Messer, a GOP establishment favorite, says childhood lessons taught him perseverance. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce spent more than $1 million on ads helping Young, as did groups with ties to Senate Majority Mitch McConnell. Neither group has been involved this time. Stutzman had the backing of outside groups which had spent heavily in the 2012 primary, in which GOP Tea Party challenger Richard Mourdock defeated incumbent Richard Lugar, but have not chosen a side this year. At this point in the 2016 campaign, Stutzman had spent about $2.2 million compared to the nearly $3.5 million spent by Young, the eventual winner. Contact Maureen Gropp at mgropp@gannett.com. Follow her on Twitter, @McGropp. Read or share the story, https://indy.st/2knx3kh.